Building a Zero Trust Security Framework in AWS, a comprehensive guide to modern cloud security. This podcast is brought to you by Business Compass LLC. We are an Amazon Web Services advanced consulting partner. We build and migrate workloads to Amazon Cloud. Our website is businesscompassllc.com. Our phone number is 973-638-2228. Our email address is contact@businesscompassllc.us. In the evolving cybersecurity landscape, traditional security models are becoming increasingly obsolete. As businesses migrate to the cloud, a more robust and adaptable security framework has become paramount. Enter Zero Trust Security, a model redefining how we approach cloud security. In this podcast, we'll delve into Zero Trust Security and its application within AWS, guiding you on how to build secure architectures that are resilient to modern threats. Introduction to Zero Trust Security and its relevance in today's digital landscape. Zero Trust Security is a cybersecurity paradigm that shifts the focus from perimeter-based defenses to a more granular approach, where no entity, inside or outside the network, is trusted by default. This approach is particularly relevant in today's digital landscape, where the proliferation of remote work, cloud services, and mobile devices has blurred traditional network boundaries. Zero Trust ensures that every request to access resources is authenticated, authorized, and encrypted, minimizing the risk of breaches. Understanding Zero Trust principles and their application in AWS. Zero Trust is founded on several fundamental principles. Never trust, always verify. Every request to access resources must be authenticated and authorized, regardless of origin. Least privilege access. Users and systems should have the minimum level of access necessary to perform their functions. Microsegmentation. Network segments are divided into smaller zones to limit lateral movement in case of a breach. Continuous monitoring. Constant observation of network activity is essential to detect and respond to threats in real time. These principles can be seamlessly integrated into AWS environments, leveraging AWS's comprehensive suite of security services. Integrating Zero Trust principles within AWS infrastructure. AWS provides tools and services that align with Zero Trust principles. For instance, AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM, enforce the least privileged access by granting users the minimal permissions necessary to perform their jobs. AWS Security Groups and Network Access Control Lists, NACLs, implement microsegmentation by controlling inbound and outbound traffic at the instance and subnet level. AWS CloudTrail and Amazon GuardDuty enable continuous monitoring by logging and analyzing account activity and detecting potential threats. Constructing Zero Trust architectures, a focus on AWS services. Building a Zero Trust architecture in AWS involves a strategic combination of services. AWS Identity Services, use IAM, AWS Organizations, and AWS Single Sign-On, SSO, to manage identities and enforce strict access controls. Amazon VPC, design VPCs with isolated subnets, tightly controlled traffic flow, and network segmentation. AWS Key Management Service, KMS, encrypt data at rest and in transit, ensuring it remains secure even if data is intercepted. Enhancing security through service-to-service interactions in AWS. Service-to-service communication is a critical aspect of cloud architectures. In a Zero Trust model, each service must authenticate and authorize interactions with other services. AWS services like AWS IAM roles and AWS Secrets Manager facilitates secure service-to-service communication by managing credentials and enforcing strict access policies. Implementing Zero Trust for service-to-service communication. To implement Zero Trust in service-to-service interactions, consider the following. Use IAM roles. Assign roles with specific permissions to each service, ensuring they can only access the necessary resources. Encrypt communications. Use AWS Certificate Manager, ACM, to manage SSL/TLS certificates and encrypt all service communications. Monitor and audit. Leverage AWS CloudTrail to monitor API calls and AWS Config to ensure compliance with security policies. Securing human-to-service interactions with Zero Trust principles. Human-to-service interactions, such as administrators accessing AWS Management Console or developers deploying applications, also require Zero Trust considerations. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. Implement MFA for all user logins to add an extra layer of security. AWS SSO. Centralize identity management and enforce strong authentication policies across your AWS environment. Practical strategies for applying Zero Trust in AWS. Applying Zero Trust in AWS involves a blend of architectural design, policy enforcement, and continuous monitoring. Design for least privilege. Regularly review and adjust IAM policies to ensure they adhere to the principle of least privilege. Automate security checks. Use AWS config rules to enforce compliance and AWS Lambda to automate security responses. Regularly rotate secrets. Implement automatic secret rotation using AWS Secrets Manager to reduce the risk of credential exposure. Leveraging AWS services for robust security posture. AWS provides a suite of services that are instrumental in building a zero-trust architecture. AWS Security Hub. Centralize and prioritize security alerts across your AWS environment. Amazon Inspector. Automatically assess applications for vulnerabilities or deviations from best practices. AWS WAF and AWS Shield. Protect against web application threats and distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks. Case study. Implementing zero trust in real-world scenarios. Consider a company that has implemented zero trust within its AWS environment. Microsegmentation. They used Amazon VPC to create isolated environments for different workloads, minimizing the impact of a potential breach. Service-to-service authentication. They implemented IAM roles and encrypted all AWS KMS communications. Continuous monitoring. AWS CloudTrail and Amazon GuardDuty provided real-time insights into suspicious activities, enabling rapid response. Continuous monitoring and automation for zero-trust security in AWS Zero Trust is not a set-it-and-forget-it strategy. It requires continuous monitoring and automation. AWS offers tools like AWS CloudWatch. This is for real-time monitoring and alerting. AWS Lambda, for automating security responses. AWS Config. This is to ensure compliance with security policies. Conclusion. The future of zero-trust security in AWS. The future of cloud security lies in the adoption of zero-trust principles. As threats evolve, so too must our defenses. AWS's robust suite of security tools and services positions it as an ideal platform for implementing zero-trust architectures, ensuring that your cloud environment is secure, resilient, and ready for the challenges of tomorrow. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Please share this podcast, visit our website and follow our social media links.